One of Salina's most historic and cherished landmarks still recovering after that June 8th storm.
Gypsum Hill Cemetery suffered extensive damage, leaving dangerous debris and downed trees throughout the grounds. As cleanup continues, some community members say the volunteers are stepping up where city leadership should have acted sooner.
Damaged trees, hanging limbs, and debris creating hazardous conditions throughout the historic cemetery, where generations of Salina families have laid loved ones to rest.
My best friend is right next to my headstone, and then her family is here, and my mother is here. It's a big deal to us to keep this place nice.
For Sue, the cemetery is more than a landmark. It's personal. She says seeing the destruction was heartbreaking and believes the city should have made the cemetery a higher priority in its recovery efforts.
Some of these bigger trees and the things that it takes to really clear all of this, it's not just a simple chainsaw.
Even now, nearly 2 weeks after the storm, damage is easy to find. Volunteers spending hours cleaning up debris and trees around from headstones. But some of the most damaged trees may require some specialized equipment to remove.
Everybody that came out here to help clean this mess up. I mean, it looks so much better than what it did.
Those volunteers have become a critical part of the recovery effort. Martin, who works at the city-owned cemetery, says his staff has been balancing cleanup while continuing to hold funeral and graveside services in the middle of destruction.
Our commitment is to the people of Salina and their loved ones, making sure that they're taken care of and that the services still continue.
And while volunteers have made significant progress, some of the remaining work is beyond what volunteers can safely handle and may need to be contracted out. For Sue, the goal is simple: ensuring a place filled with memories, history, and loved ones receives the care it deserves. In Salina, Gabriela Hernandez, 12 News.